When you get a call from John and he tells you, be at my house at 4:30 and he won't give you any details, then that's what you do. And so I texted him back and I asked him, I said, you must have heard something. He's like, look, man, just show up. So when he says that, it's usually going to be pretty good.
Home sweet home.
We jumped in and went into Bayou. Had a pretty good walk this morning. It was probably a half mile in. No, it's not really far, but not knowing where you're going can be a little stressful sometimes. And then I've been on a few adventures with John where we go to a certain spot and then we walk another quarter mile and another quarter mile, another quarter mile, and the next thing you know it's 9:30 in the morning and we're still trying to find this spot. So I was a little concerned, but it worked out great. It was gray, thunderstorms, raining, sprinkling, nasty, 70 degrees. There's no reason that the hunting should be any good at all. Woo. How long's water been in this hole, you figure? Has he been here a month?
Those birds, they start out on the south end. Even if it floods,
right,
and the whole thing floods, they start on that south end, work their way right up in here, and then they roll over the ditch, and then they start going. You always got to wait for them to make that.
A little hole. We get in this morning, we kind of get in the general area that we want to be in, and then at that point, what we're trying to do is find a hole. Look at there, you got a log right there, big fella, come on. My eyes are playing tricks on me. And once we find that hole, now it's time to be guard dogs. And so what you do is you kind of separate and you know, you get one guy gets over here and one guy gets over here and you're flashing lights and you're blowing duck calls and if you have to, it's like, hey, you've come far enough. So what you have to do is, you know, kind of when you find your area, you got to kind of post sentries around the area to keep guys off until shooting time. And that's pretty much what happens. Love and kindness shared amongst duck hunters during duck season. It's heartwarming. You go into Bayou and people have to understand, and those that haven't experienced it, you're in about 30,000 flooded acres, you know, and I'm sure it's less than that by the time you factor in levee systems and roads and some other things throughout there, but approximately 30,000 acres. And you have to understand that in those 30,000 acres, about 60% of all the mallards that have ever been harvested by a waterfowl hunter happened in those 30,000 acres. Oh, Susie hen duck. Preach! Somebody smashed. Oh, look at here, single. Here we go, boys. Get ready. Shoot those ducks. Shoot them. Hey, get on. Sit. Sit. Preach. Please tell me you got a big old green head. What duck? Oh, the big old, look like big fat ones. Well, good. Good. The Woodrow smoke. All manganese. Oh, merganser. Water swat. Come here with Elvis. Elvis Presley. Elvis is in the building. Look at that. Look at that. Good boy. Good man. Get it. Thank you. Hello, merganser.
Really to restore the natural hydrology of the property, the water movement, because everything changed when the ship channels were dug in this area. You know, my goal is this place for, you know, my grandkids, great-grandkids to have this place and to enjoy it as much as I enjoy it.
As it breached, now it's flowing up to 10,000 cubic feet per second when the river's up. And here we are, we have people trying to close that, and not very far down the road in the future that we're going to spend another $1 billion opening another one. So what sense does that make to close that one?
There's been that much change in the ecosystem here that we can look back 5 years and we know that the marsh is so much different now than it was then. Our good old days aren't 30 or 40 years long anymore. They're changing every season. Every season, the good old days were a year ago. And if something isn't done, it won't be long before the good old days are gone.
Golly. Always tell. One's 2 shots, tree topping. Don't know how to hunt. Never been taught, I guess. I have no idea. It just ruins it. It doesn't ruin it, but it sure does take all the fun out of it sometimes. You know, it's your typical buy meat a deal. You know, after you fight everybody off, you kind of assess the situation, you see what's happening, and then of course as the sun comes up, I'm literally looking for a log is what I'm doing. You know, I'm looking for a log, and then I hear Grant say there's a 50 group right there, and I look over there and there is a 50 group doing this. Well, I'm still trying to find a log. About that time I get my gun loaded and they're starting to drop in the hole. They're stopping at the bottom of the canopy, you know, kind of sliding in and sliding around. And then at that point, you know, you're kind of waiting to say, hey, you know, can the camera see them? Because, you know, For those of you that have never hunted, when there's cameras involved, it's a pain, you know, at times. You know, when you'd love to be able to shoot them, you gotta wait. Because, you know, if you can't see it with a camera, it didn't happen, and that's the reason that, you know, you're out there on those days that you brought cameras. So we're waiting, and then about that time, you know, it's like, hey, let's shoot 2 or 3, see if the cameras can see. So anyway, we shoot 2 or 3, and they're silhouetted against the sky so you can see them. But the bad part about that is, which I feel terrible, you know, when you shoot that duck that you're almost certain was a drake, and your dog comes back and it's a big old brown Susie, you know, and you're like, golly. Because, you know, I'm not a purist, so to speak, but man, when there's that many ducks, all it takes is a little patience to shoot all greenheads, and then, you know, everybody's going to have more ducks down in the future, and that's what we're all trying to do, you know, improve the hunting, not make it worse. And when you're shooting hens, you're making it worse, whether you want to come up with an excuse or not. And I did it today, and I hate it, but I try to always shoot drakes if I can. So anyway, that first group comes in, boom, boom. I think we knocked down 2 or 3. Later on, we had a really good group come in. There was like 4 or 5. I'm literally calling some ducks that are behind me, and then I hear these guys get quiet. And when they get quiet, you know, you need to get quiet. Preacher! Well, get him, Preacher, get him, boy. Here, right there. Preach. I'll get these others picked up, Johnny. I got it picked up. I got it. I'll have 3 right here in just a second. Here. Here, come here. Come on. Good. Here, give. Here, sit. Sit right there, sit. Look here, sit right there. Good, right there, big boy. Here. Preacher! Oh, Lord, that was so fine. I'm sitting there calling a single over here, and next thing I know, I hear these guys get real quiet, it scared me to death. Way to go, Johnny. Way to go, Big G. Yes, sir. They were filtering in there kind of nice. Come here, fat boy. Or at least 3. Come here, Brad. Good boy. Good boy. Thank you, sir. What you got? That was beautiful. Every time the new gun went boom, something fell. I think I like it. Hey, it was nice when we were 5 yards.
Waterfowling has a past. When hunting was more art than science. When craftsmanship was held in the highest regard, and mastery was earned through creative skill and experience. Avery Heritage Clothing and Accessories honor those traditions with classic, proven designs that continue to stand the test of time. Avery Heritage, a new brand embracing all that waterfowling has been and will be.
This is my new best friend, Esther. She might look like any normal, playful puppy, but Esther's being raised to become a canine companions for independence assistance dog for a person with a disability. To get there, she needs lots of loving care and attention, plenty of exercise, and good eating habits so that she can live a long and healthy life for her future family. Visit cci.org or call 1-800-572-BARK. Raise a puppy, change a life. You can make a world of difference in the life of a person with a disability.
I thought Preacher did a great job today. Preacher had fun. You know, today was a tough deal because you've got a long walk in. Bayou is one of the few places, like I got every kind of dog stand in the world in my boat, and they stay in my boat. You know, I've got a hybrid stand, and I've got a boomer stand, and you can, those will work in just about any kind of flooded situation that you can stand in. You got a dog that's almost 10 years old. You know, most of the time I'm always going to pack a dog stand in, but in Bayou it's a little bit different. There's so many trees, and where there's a lot of trees, there's going to be some down trees. When you get in a scenario where you're trying to find a good spot for your dog, you know, it can be tough because, you know, you don't know what kind of hole you're dealing with. When we dealt with a hole today that, I don't even know, it probably about 20, 25 feet across, and it's just a hole in the canopy. We're not looking for a hole in the water. I think a lot of duck hunters kind of get confused when they're looking for that. I mean, a hole in the water is great, and that'd be super duper. But when you can't manipulate holes, you can't go in there. You can't cut wood. You can't, you know, you're not supposed to be breaking branches in there. So what we're looking for is a hole in the canopy, and what'll happen is those ducks will dive in that canopy, and then from there they'll filter out. And that's another thing that you'll learn. You know, when those ducks come in that canopy, when they hit that canopy and they drop 10 or 15 feet, that's when you want to shoot them in that scenario, because if you wait for them to go, you don't know what direction they're going to go. You know, they're going to go right, left, whatever. They're definitely not going to land on a giant oak tree. They're going somewhere other than straight down. So you get your dog, you put him in there, and you get him in the boat, and you walk in there, and then at that point, as a dog guy, you know, everybody else is like looking for a hole, and you're thinking, all right, I got to find a hole, which is great, but I got to find a place, I got to get this dog out of the water. Now, this is a different scenario because it's 57 degrees, and yes, the water is chilly. I would not want to be walking barefooted in it, but he's a Labrador, he's a tough guy, he's been through a lot worse, and so we kind of, you know, found a spot that kind of worked good for him. And a lot of times you got to figure out too, you know, there's places that you'd like for your dog to be, and then there's places that your dog wants to be. And so you just kind of make the best of the both worlds. There was a great log over here. He didn't want to be there. He wanted to be right here next to me, you know, and which is okay, you know, and you just got to monitor your dog and see how they're doing, you know. If they look like they're getting cold, you got to get them out of the water. And they'll let you know. They'll let you know. I mean, as long as you're paying attention to them, they'll be fine. But I thought he did a great job today. He had a lot of fun because he made one retrieve that was probably a couple 100 yards, 150 anyway. But the great thing is, and especially when you get out here on the white, and we run into these holes sometimes where we're in ankle deep water, but right over there is waist deep water. And you know, I'm not a smart guy, but I do know that most Labradors, at least the ones I've been around, they're not as tall as I am. So if I can't really touch, they're probably not going to be able to touch. So typically those ducks, they go to that deep water. I don't know how they know, but today we had the magic duck. We shoot him, he gets knocked down, and the first thing he does is head for shallow water. And you can see Preacher starts going and going, and he's getting faster, and it's like he's thinking, please keep going, man, please keep going, because you're just about on dry ground. And that's good, you know, you get an easy hunt like that. I think it's important as a dog guy that you understand that, man, when you get an opportunity to hunt on a 50-something degree day with an old dog, you got to do it, man. You got to do it because that's easy on them. And, you know, you just don't have the stress of them getting cold or ice, or it's easy on them. And everybody likes easy, especially when, you know, you probably don't have old Preacher. He'll be 10 in a few months, and he's probably got, you know, the rest of this year and probably next year, and it'll be time to start putting the brakes on and you know, relax a little more. But I can tell you, anytime it jumps up to 57, I'm gonna get the old guys and we're gonna go out there and do our best.
I'm standing in J.D. Blondin's horse pasture outside Arcadia, Louisiana, watching the most important retriever event in America's retriever history, and I need a new vocabulary to talk about it. The article that Bill Tarrant wrote of Field and Stream about the first hunt test.
First of all, I tell them to be courteous to your fellow hunters. These woods is full of people, and they all want to hunt ducks. They need to be courteous and need to wait. Wait on the ducks. You can work them down in the timber if you just wait. It just takes patience. And the main thing is to be courteous. It's a boat ramp in the ditches. You know, don't come to any public place thinking you own it. That's what a lot of them do. They don't own it. It's just like these people all around us in here this morning. They all shooting at the ducks over the treetops. They all still out here. You don't hear them calling. What are they doing? Sitting out here shooting them over the treetops. And that ain't courteous.
It don't bother. I mean, you know, they want in here. You know, the problem is a lot of people won't work them down in the tree. And if you do that, you can get them a lot quicker and get on out of here. These guys, they'll come in here and they'll stay till noon.
Yeah, they've never learned, you know, wait and get 6 or 8 or 4 or 5 down in the hole, and you'll get done so much quicker, and it's so much more fun.
It is.
Than shooting them at 35 and 40 yards and hoping, and then, you know.
Well, the shell limit too that they got in.
What do you think? Is that? Do you think that's hell?
I think it's hell because, you know, before they put that in place, man, them guys, they told me, they said, "Listen, they're just standing out there and shoot all day." They're putting.
But you see that? I mean, there's a single there. There's a single shot.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't
That's
hear.
all treetops.
You don't hear boom, 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 boom like we used to. You know, it used to be quiet. Then it's quiet again.
And then a boat motor is leading.
That's right. That's exactly right. You don't hear that anymore. And I'm telling you, part of the reason I want to do this deal and bring it back is so people can learn. God almighty, somebody open the gate. Kill him. Get him down. Mark. Preach! It's kind of cheesy to say when you see it being abused, but when you see people that don't know how to respect it, and it's not that they're doing it on purpose, they just don't know any better, I think. When you see that, it's, you know, I think it frustrates them, you know, because you see a scenario where it's probably tougher than it needs to be, you know, it really is. And I'm not sure what the answers are. I mean, there's people way smarter than me working on those answers, but I don't want to ever see it become a, you know, like some of these other states where you get there at 3 o'clock in the morning and you got your little poker chip and you draw it out of a hat and that's the blind that you have. I would hope that it would never become that. I think there's a lot of romance to just running up and down those trails and those ditches, trying to find birds. I mean, scouting is a huge part of it, and it's a special part of it. And I would hate for that to go away, and have us lose the ability to go where we know we should go, as opposed to a scenario where we have to go where we're told based on what we pulled out of a hat. So. It's one of those things that I think as duck hunters we all need to put in the work, especially as Arkansas duck hunters. We need to put in the work to try to educate these guys, whether they're from out of state or not, it doesn't matter. We need to get them in there and show them, hey, look, you don't have to be a world-class duck caller. I'm certainly not, and you can still get ducks in the woods just as good as anybody else, and get them down and do it right. You'll get much more out of it than, you know, killing 8 or 10 at treetop. Come on, preachy. Good boy. Good man. Good boy. Good job, Bubba. That's fun, isn't it? Give it. Give.
tough on fat boy. He's really tough on that fat boy dragging up the rear back there.